Hello, welcome Database. We're opening up a little bit early today. We're going to get started. We have an amazing event for you guys tonight, the future of food. So we're so excited to be partnering with the Hive Southeast Asia. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. For those of you who are new, hi, my name is Maddie Watt. I am the Senior Manager of People and Programs of the Hive, and I help lead the Hive Think Tank. You are attending a Hive Think Tank webinar tonight. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the Hive Think Tank does before we kind of jump right into today's main event. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to just share my screen real fast and then we'll get started. Real fast, before I go ahead and talk about what the Hive Think Tank is, I want to point out two things. Number one, the session is being recorded and it will automatically be sent to all people who have registered for the event. So if you have to hop off the call or if you have a colleague that couldn't join, don't worry, you will get the recording emailed to you. Secondly, we love questions. Please ask questions. To ask a question, please use the Q&A button. It is located at the bottom of your screen underneath all of our videos. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to just share my screen real fast with you guys. Okay. So today we've got the future of food, how Agritech can empower economies through the digital transformation of the agricultural sector. So exciting. Can't wait to jump into this today. Oh, I'm right. Okay, perfect. But real fast, what is the Hive Think Tank? We are an ecosystem of entrepreneurs, corporations, and thought leaders. We are an event and content platform that is bringing you events about every other week, although this week we are lucky to have two. For those of you who joined us yesterday for our insurance for the sharing economy event, thank you so much and welcome back today. Glad to have you guys again. And we are focused on events that have to do with insurtech, health tech, ag tech, AI, data, and all the leading innovations and things that are allowing the digital revolution to occur. So we're super excited today to have our friends from Gamuda. I see some of our attendees from Gamuda. Hi guys, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. And we have an event coming up with our partners at Gamuda, which I would love for you guys to attend. It's going to be on digital engineering and construction, and that's going to be towards the end of February. For those of you who are based in Southeast Asia, that will be your Tuesday at 10. Oh, I'm sorry, your Wednesday at 2 p.m. And it will be for those of you who are on the West Coast out of California, it'll be our Tuesday at 10 p.m. So without further ado, I want to introduce my colleague, Hizam. He helps lead the Hive Southeast Asia. He's going to tell you a little bit about what the Hive does as a funding entity and what the Hive Southeast Asia is focused on before going ahead and introducing our incredible panel of speakers. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Hizam?
Thanks, Matty, for the kind introduction. Yeah, I'm Hizam. I'm the co-managing partner of the Hive Southeast Asia. We're a co-creation and seed fund under the Ministry of Finance Malaysia's Dana Penjana National Program. And really the rhetoric is to invest in create companies that will digitalize Malaysia and the region into the fourth industrial revolution and hence economic recovery. We're really co-creating and investing early stage companies pre-Series A. So anyone in the audience with regard who are fundraising, do please reach out. It is a partnership with the Hive based out of Palo Alto and obviously all the Hives around the world, Hive Brazil, Hive India, and also the Sunway Group as an ecosystem partner as well. We're proud to have the Think Tank series, which has a large following and very reputable in the US. From the Hive Southeast Asia, this is the sixth Think Tank session, and we cover pertinent topics that will shape the digital world, the fourth industrial revolution. And we feel that it will be a good platform, and the outputs will be a thought leadership. So today's topic with regards to Agritech is pertinent in today's world, as we've seen during the pandemic and movement control orders, border closures, etc. That food security will undoubtedly be an issue for nations throughout the world. Technology advancements will play a key role. And today we have three esteemed speakers and led by our partner, Matt, as well, who will be moderating. Without further ado, I would like to pass over to Matt to make the introductions. Thanks.
Hi, thanks, Dr. Hizam, for the introduction. And yeah, nice to be here at the Hive think tank, and very honored to be a partner in the Hive Southeast Asia ecosystem, and particularly today, and I'm very excited to talk about agri and food tech, which I think is a very big topic. So before I introduce myself, I actually want to hear first from this incredible panel of speakers. And of course, I would not be a gentleman if I wouldn't let the ladies go first. So Christina, honored to have you here. I know it's like 2:30 a.m. your time. So thank you so much for being here. So maybe over to you first to do a quick intro about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Hi, everyone. I am Christine Gould. I'm the founder of Thought for Food, which is a global organization that is working to catalyze, support, discover, and invest in early stage, next generation entrepreneurs in the food and agri-tech space. We have a global network now of 30,000 community members in over 170 countries. And what we do is actually rally them to get excited about and dedicate their, careers and innovation and creativity mindsets into this, sector that is ripe for reinvention. We run a global challenge, which is the largest and most diverse innovation challenge in the sector, called the TFF Challenge. We select top startups to go through our acceleration program, and we also organize a big global event called the TFF Summit, which is kind of known in the space as the South by Southwest of food and ag, because it is a mashup of startups, creatives, industry leaders, policy leaders, investors, and more. Finally, I think it's worth mentioning that we do have our first official regional hub based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So Malaysia is a country close to my heart, but we really do see a lot of potential in the country and across Southeast Asia to do some incredible things to lead the world in innovation in this space. But I'm sure we'll talk about that throughout our conversation. But yeah, it is 2:30 in the morning here in Switzerland, but I wouldn't miss the chance to talk about my favorite topic and connect with my favorite part of the world. So looking forward to a great discussion.
Thank you, Christine. And yeah, Christine is not just waking up very early for this panel session and talk to Malaysians and people in Southeast Asia, but she actually came over 2 or 3 weeks ago to Malaysia to be here for 2 days. She flew in from Switzerland to host an event and to really talk to our entrepreneurs here and really sort of invest into the ecosystem. So thank you so much, Christine. So secondly, I want to introduce Prof. Hang Tuah. So Prof is actually from UPM, which is one of the leading sort of research universities in Malaysia, but he is actually also calling in from Europe, from Turkey. So I believe it's 3:30 a.m. his time. So we got some really diehards on the call today. So Prof, welcome, and yeah, please tell a little bit more about yourself.
Right, thank you, Matt, and hi everyone. Yes, good morning here from Istanbul. I'm actually stuck for the last 2 days because of the flight disruptions due to the heavy snow weather. Anyway, my name again is Hang Tuah. I'm one of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, and I'm looking after the industry and community relation. So pretty much what I do is actually trying to be the bridging between universities with community out there, whether it's industry, startups, and big players. Trying to leverage what we have within the university ecosystem that we can assist the industry. I'm sitting here representing 1,700 researchers and lecturers who have probably quite a number of solutions. Maybe we have something in the drawer somewhere that we can help to assist industries out there. And if we don't, we given the connections that we have with our researchers around the world, we felt that we are able to find solutions or alternatives to certain challenges that rises. University Putra Malaysia just celebrated its 50 years in existence as a university. So we established far longer from that in 1931, actually, as a technical college for agriculture. So naturally, our base are actually in agricultural technology. And although we are venturing into other fields, but about 60% of our programs are agricultural and agricultural related programs, which include food technology, medical sciences that are related to dietaries and things like that. So yes, today we are very keen to share some of our experience, and hopefully looking also partners around the world who may wanted to be partnering with us in accelerating some of our findings or our IPs so that it can be in the global market, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for that introduction. And yeah, so finally we have, last but not least, we have RAZWAN here from one of the darlings of the Malaysian tech ecosystem, company called Aerodyne, one of the fastest growing tech companies here. Agriculture, I guess, is one of the applications, but there are a lot more than that. And now I'll leave it to Raswan to talk a little bit more about that.
Hello, hi. Good morning, everyone. Very excited to be here. First of all, I think word of thanks to the Hive for organizing such a wonderful event. Yes, so Aerodyne, with just new kids on the block, basically in agriculture. We've been doing a lot of things in the data and also the drone space technology, but we are very excited to be starting our agriculture venture. We've been doing so, I think, only for about a year and 2 months now. But we've seeing, we've looking at agriculture as a high growth sector, and we've been focusing our energy and also our resources in terms of really modernizing agriculture. So precision farming as a service is one of our play. And so this is something that I think an exciting topic that probably I could talk a bit more later in the discussion today. So yep, excited to be here, and let's start the ball rolling. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Razwan, for that. So just a very quick intro about myself. So I'm the Chief Innovation Officer in Sunway Group. So for the people outside Malaysia, Sunway is one of the largest conglomerates in Malaysia. We have businesses spanning from education, a very large education group with 25,000 students. We have shopping malls, healthcare. We are, of course, in the development side, and we also have a theme park. So very wide and diverse group of companies. So in the innovation ecosystem, we have really started to build closer collaborations with startups, with researchers, students, but also with investors. And so we set up our Sunway Innovation Labs, or iLabs, 5 years ago. And our mantra is to inspire, to build, and to launch. So we do a lot of hackathons, startup speaker series where we invite entrepreneurs or investors to share their knowledge with our ecosystem. We also provide the tools to build real solutions, right? So we have a makerspace within our iLabs to turn ideas into MVPs, prototypes, and then we open up to our entire group of companies that provide a test bed, right, to validate new technologies, innovations, and business models. And finally, we help launch startups. So in that segment, we do invest as well. So we look at the very early stages where we run an accelerator program. We provide a little bit of money to the startups. We provide mentorship. And again, we provide access to the market and our distribution channels. And then beyond that, we also have our own corporate venture capital arm where we invest in startups all the way up to Series A, Series B rounds. And we're also very proud, as I said earlier, to be partner with the Hive and to work very closely with them to co-create new innovations. And definitely agri and food tech is one of those sectors we have definitely started to look into. We see a lot of more money going into it. And it's also very encouraging to see that the Hive and other VCs are starting to take notice and put real money into that sector. So yeah, so that's me. So I came to Malaysia 12 years ago. I'm very Malaysianized, but one of the things that I noticed when I came here is that people love food, right? They love talking about food. They love eating it. And you know, like when you go to your office at 8:30 or 9, first thing people ask is, have you had your breakfast, right? And at 11 or 12, people ask, well, hey, have you had your lunch? And that goes on until 3 p.m. where people still talk about their lunch. And after that, pretty much people start talking about dinner and their supper. So it's all about food. And it's not a surprise that agri and food technologies is such a hot topic in Malaysia, but also in other Southeast Asian countries. In Malaysia, 10% or 1 out of 10 people work in the agriculture sector. It's also a growing segment where we've seen more than 7% of the GDP coming from the agriculture industry, right? And yet we still rely on import from other countries. And that's sort of a challenge we are seeing locally. And maybe Malaysia is not alone. I think Singapore has the same problem where they are not self-sufficient. And I guess these are some of the problems that we can address. In Malaysia, just to give you a figure, we are importing to the range of about $15 billion every year. And that's been growing over the last 10 years or so. So the narrative around the need for innovation in the space was, of course, further boosted when the pandemic started and countries went into a lockdown. We saw supply chains crumbling down. So food didn't arrive into the shops. It didn't arrive onto people's plates. And as a result, we were stuck with tons of food wastage and, of course, urban poverty. So innovation must happen. We know that. But where are the opportunities? And so let's start off there, where the opportunities are. And maybe before we start talking about solutions or technology, let's talk first about the big, hairy problem statements and challenge that we are seeing. So maybe if I can start with, Christine again, what are sort of, having a lens around the world and seeing so many startups arising in this space, what do you see are the sort of the big problems that the startups are currently addressing or maybe that are not addressing yet and where the opportunities may be?
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, I love the way that you framed this question, because I think too often we think about kind of pushing solutions outward because we have a promising technology, but it's really important to actually be seeking for problems to solve. And particularly when there are so many problems to solve in our food and agricultural system. And that's something we really stand for in my organization, Thought for Food, is putting, for example, the farmer at the center of that solution development process. And in fact, as part of our acceleration program and like ideation programs that we offer on a digital platform that we've built that's freely available to entrepreneurs around the world, we've built an entire lab module called WTF, Where's the Farmer? And that is encouraging innovators to think about talking to farmers and also giving them skills like around, speaking the language of farmers, but looking, really for those on the ground problems that they can build solutions around. And another like small point I just want to make in reaction to your question is about the fact now is that the world has, it is a tongue-in-cheek name, Maddie. But the world has evolved, right? And so the models that we've built to solve problems in our food system from the industrial era, they were built for a certain, period of time when we needed to look at efficiency and optimization to achieve scale. But now, thanks to the power of technology, we can actually really support highly localized solutions through global collaboration, especially if we focus on things like data interoperability. It now doesn't need to be a one-size-fits-all solution that goes global. It can be a network of localized solutions that are able to, support each other. And that is actually also really, really exciting. And so what we're seeing, again, you asked me to come from that global vantage point, is that there are indeed key trends and opportunities that innovators are jumping in to address. But they're also saying, like, this is what works in India. This is what works in Indonesia. This is what works in Brazil. Here in Germany, we're taking this approach, and they're sharing that with each other and actually increasing their innovation efforts and reducing duplicative efforts, which is, of course, something very wasteful. And we don't want to have duplication and unnecessary efforts in a world where we have pressing climate change challenges, food insecurity, broken supply chains, etc. So now to your specific question about where are the opportunities? I mean, again, this is a sector rife for reinvention because of the fact that it is the least digitized industry sector that exists in the world. So point blank, there are just opportunities to bring digital solutions on every part of the chain from farm to fork. You know, there's the chance to help, you know, smallholder farmers and, you know, farmers actually at any scale connect more to consumer demands. And we do have, you know, a growing population. We have a younger population that's moving to cities, but demanding more of their food system, wanting to know more about where their food is grown, how it's grown, and demanding that, you know, food systems become more sustainable and climate friendly. So when the consumer is asking for that and they have tools to help them, you know, understand the information about their food, that is encouraging farmers to transition away from, you know, these kind of highly efficient, but, you know, very environmentally damaging systems of yesteryear towards more sustainable technologies. So that linkage between downstream and upstream, I think, is a big trend. And that's driving technology adoption across the chain. And that is really, you know, there's just so much to say. So some of the areas that personally excite me are around the, you know, gene editing technology and the fact that we can start to connect that now to more types of crops besides just the big commodity crops. I'm also extremely excited at the moment around, you know, blockchain. I've been seeing that for many, many years, but I do think that Web3 adoption is going to accelerate some use cases in food and ag. And of course, everything to do around that, how to empower the consumer with information and fresh, nutritious, delicious food that can be either delivered to them in the places where they live, e.g. cities, or grown closer to where they live. So I'll stop there. That was a lot of information, but wanted to give you that perspective of global and also some of the demographic and, you know, consumer trends that are affecting the system.
Thank you so much, Christine. And I forgot to mention in my intro, we're actually also a very keen supporter of TFF and the work that they're doing globally. Yeah, so thanks for that. And what I really love about your answer, or how you started to frame that around the farmer, right? Because oftentimes, you know, when we run like design sprints or hackathons, the focus is always about the technology, right? Building solutions. And actually there was one time when we wanted to make that point to our students, and we took our students to the north of Malaysia, to Kedah, where there's a lot of the paddy fields. So rather than thinking about like technology or the big buzzwords, go up north, go to talk to the farmers and really find out what are the problems that they are facing. And actually, to their surprise, they didn't need any of the fancy technology. They just need a better irrigation system, right, to get a better harvest for the rice. So very interesting point. So maybe like zooming into maybe the sort of local perspective, Prof. And before we talk more about the technology, what do you see are the sort of, you know, the big problem statements that we are facing here in Malaysia?
Right. Okay. Thank you. Well, interesting input from Christine, because I do totally agree with whenever we want to talk about solutions, we have to focus on who the real players are. And then at the moment, you know, farmers are the one that we tend to neglect. And oftentimes when we talk about you know, these digital solutions or high-tech, you know, big solutions, Agritech solutions, and they are mainly focused on big players, you know, conglomerates who have, you know, hundreds and thousands of acres of you know, plantations. So in reality, if we have that as a solution moving forward, we will be facing with a lot of unemployment, because, you know, countries like India, like Turkey, like Malaysia, the numbers of smallholder farmers are really huge. And then we need to find solution for these farmers. And the solutions that I believe is what Christine has mentioned earlier, is actually how do we connect the farmers to the market, which is more directly. That's one. Number two, how do we increase productivity of farmers with the same land areas, but higher yield? So these are the technologies that are moving forward. And then changing landscape in terms of economic affordability of younger generations, for people who are eating and sourcing food sustainably. That's one. Number two, we also have a changing climate, so that's also a challenge. So we need farmers who are maybe have a 3-acre land, 2 acres land, but the production that they do can sustain their livelihood. What you see in the West, the bigger corporation, when they do farming, if it's if the land size is small, it will not even be profitable for the operation. And yet, for countries like Malaysia, where the farmers are getting older, so we need to bring in younger talent to become farmers with a limited land sizes. So this is where we need to convince them with the adoptions of technology. The same, maybe the fathers were planting paddy in a 3-acre paddy field, and yet the son can take over, and then the yield is 3 times, or they can actually do harvesting 3 seasons per year rather than 2 at the moment. Things like this need to be looked into. And then just to share with you, in UPM, for example, we have developed several different types of paddy just to specifically addressing this issue. So some of these are being commercialized, but I think the uptake is a bit small. So by having connecting with Hive and also Christine, maybe, so we want to see whether these things can be developed further and then can be accelerated to a higher market. So that's my view for now.
Yeah. Some very good points there. And so maybe over to you, excuse me, Raswan. What do you see the role of technology playing into that, and how do you provide sort of the right tools to the farmers to solve some of the problems that Prof talked about? Raswan, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. The line became choppy just now. Can you repeat that question, Matt?
Yeah, so what's I mean, following up what Prof said, do you see where are the opportunities when it comes to technology? Being in the technology space yourself, what is your experience in sort of putting the technology in the hands of the farmers, right? Is that something that you see the adoptability is very fast, or are there still challenges that need to be solved?
Right. I think, thank you again for the question. Great questions, by the way. I think echoing what Prof Hang Tuah mentioned, and also Christine mentioned earlier, it's about how do we get that technology out? How do we bridge the gap, right? So when we look at this agriculture, when Aerodyne looks at agriculture, we see that modernizing of agriculture is no longer an option. We must do it. Malaysia needs to start embarking on this journey, right? So, and then we look at what are the structural issues that actually we are having, So when we look at it, like what Prof Hang Tuah mentioned just now, correct, farmers at most will have about 1 hectare to 1.5 hectare. It's quite a very small holding of land, right? So they have. And then because of this small holding of land, they only can earn about 400 USD per month, so 400 to 500 USD per month. And these guys are also very seasoned guys. These are elderly, more than 60 years of age, so where, the energy might be, less than, a younger chap of 30 years old, 35, right? So, And then when we look at this, because of the lack of capabilities doing agriculture in a big way, so we come up with a solution where we introduce to the market precision farming as a service. So this is where Aerodyne, we go in to farms and then we do our services. Of course, we start with drone operation first, doing things like crop protection and fertilizer application for these guys. And then, but we're starting to push the envelope for precision agriculture, where, you use like specifics, you do your mapping, you go and take a look the condition of the farm, and then after that you use a bit of variable rate technology, to apply your fertilizer applications and all that, right? So it's more targeted, and it's more, in a way, it's also helped them to reduce a bit of their costs because they know exactly where the problem are, so that sort of things, So looking at it from that way, so that is what we've started our operations from last year. We have only about 5 teams doing so, and now we have becoming a 200, almost 250 persons, in terms of doing this agriculture operations for our farmers out there, So I think precision farming as a service is a good model, not just coming up with food system or farming system, but also doing this as a service is also a good business activities. We can attract more younger generation as well to go into the bandwagon of offering this to the market, right? So so we are in the journey of developing, so we want to enable, we want to onboard our young people, our young talents, fresh out from the university diploma, and give them the right tool for them to be able to go into any farm and then say that, hey, you got this problem, this problem, this problem, and this is how we're going to solve it. Right, so so that's how part of it we are visioning that we're going to create that capabilities within our company, and we'll be doing so in a big way at the moment right now, right? So I think yeah, in terms of technology adoption, this is something that we really need to push. There is something, because right now it's also about the cost of technology. The cost of technology is still high. Farmers won't be able to afford drones, $20,000 US, 25,000 US dollar systems, so this is where Aerodyne bridged the gap, to make all the problems become water under the bridge.
Yeah, thanks so much. And also to the audience, right? Please ask questions in the Q&A section here. And I got a question, and I think really to your point, Raswan, talking about costs, right? Because oftentimes we talk about technology and the solutions may sound very sexy, but they are just cost prohibitive, right? So Ben is asking the question on what are the sort of non-cost prohibitive technological scalable initiatives that we are seeing that really impact food availability, safety, and nutrition to the locals. Does anyone want to have a go at that on what we are seeing?
I think I can respond to that. In UPM, we initiated a program. We call it AgroPutra. It's a concept that we develop a system whereby it is still in the development. The idea is that we're going to leverage our students when they go back to their hometown and villages and all this. They can register, all the small farmers and then whatever produce that these farmers produce into a database. And then we're developing this system with a startup company that wanted to invest in this, and also, as a university, we also try to assist the company. The whole idea is that, one, we have the critical mass in terms of the produce that all these farmers have all around Malaysia, then we are able to map what productions on what type of foods are available at any one time across all the region. So, because we are 25,000 strong number of students, and then when they go back on the semester break and things like this, they will go back and then to their hometown, they will be able to identify all these different farmers. So the whole idea is once we have this database into the system, so we'll be able to map this. And then from this, we, as a university, and the startup that we have ventured into, they can become, play a role of becoming like a contract farmer, and then engaging with all these small farmers to produce a certain type of food for a particular time frame for specific needs of either big corporations or directly supply to consumers. So these are the kind of ideas that we have. And then I know we do not rely on we cannot rely on the farmers to adopt the technologies, but we can be able to engage with our manpower, so-called manpower that we have, being able to capture this data, because data is very important. And then from this data, and I know that all the big tech companies now doing, you can monetize the data in the future. And then we have several ideas on how to do that in the future also. So that's one way of this non-cost prohibitive for now, but it's a non-cost to the farmers, but will be a certain cost to the company and as well as to the university. But this is part of our, I think, responsibility in terms of engaging the community, so that we can assist the community to bring the community produce closer to the consumers. So this is part of our role as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and Prof and also Raswan, you both touched on a point on the talents, right? Like how can we mobilize talents, graduates that come out of universities and really start working within the agriculture industry? Because what we are seeing is there's a lot of excited, passionate young people who want to engage, right? But they sometimes don't know where to start. So it's really good that you're building that platform within the university. But I mean, from Raswan, you said that you're absorbing some of these talents, right, as interns, and sometimes you recruit people straight out of university. I mean, just maybe to ask a little bit more provocative question, do you see those students that come straight out of university, are they ready, or do they have the right skill sets to be to do stuff, meaningful stuff within your company, or do you still need to train them up?
Right. I think before I answer that question, so probably I can allude to the point that last time, a couple of years back, we don't have any youth, or the entry of the youth, the younger generation to agriculture is almost none, right? So why is this, right? So because largely it's about sentiments, the agriculture sector is pretty much still intertwined with, the 3D. Everybody thought it's 3D, right? It's dirty, right? It's dangerous, and also it's some certain point demeaning, This is a few years back. But when we've started
looks like we are experiencing some technical
people each month doing agriculture. So I think in a way that we've morphed it out from 3D to 3A by using technology. Hello, you guys can hear me? Right? So 3D to 3A, So the first A is appealing. Now the job is more appealing because we use technology. Right? So we use drones, we give them tablets, we give them, those data that they can play with, So it's become more appealing to the younger generation now. And then the second one is adventurous. We give them, pickup trucks. So it's more like a camel trophy for them already, going into the deep plantation sites, up the hill, down the hill, crossing the rivers. So it's becoming more adventurous to them, right? When you give them with the right tool. And the last one is, I think the most, I think we are quite proud of is the job now becomes admirable, you know. So right now, you know, so when people embark this journey with us, so they are proud to say that they are UAV agriculture pilot, you know. They are, you know, piloting the drones, you know, doing all this kind of precision work, you know, so they are more proud. So they can go back, you know, talk to their, you know, father-in-law, future father-in-law, that they are UAV agriculture pilots. So they're very happy about that. So in the end, you know, it's about changing perception. It's about changing the way we do things. So I think we are proud to be on that journey as well, sort of like transforming this agriculture space for our younger generation. But to answer the question, Matt, so in terms of the readiness of these young talents, it's a matter of what we do as a company to make sure that they are prepared, right? So with us, we have a very structured approach on how we do it. So first of all, the candidate, you know, came in, they will have to go through a 3-week on-the-job training. So we haven't like really offered them a job yet, but we are saying that, okay, we give you a 3 weeks opportunity. We give you allowance for this 3 weeks. You go and see whether you this job like fits you well. You know, do you want to do this? You know, and then our retention rate is about 95 to 96%. So we only have a low number of guys that decided to leave. When that's plainly because they got like a better offer and so on and so forth, right? But 96% stay with us because they like the job, they like doing or the opportunity that we are giving them. So during that 3-course period, so of course the first week we sort of like give them exposure on how do you use drone, you know, how do you read data, and then the following 2 weeks is where we send them on the actual work and to see whether they can, the job fits them. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So I got a question here from Sani. Bit of a long question, but I'm trying to distill it. So what he's saying is that it's actually the challenge is not to connect smallholders to the consumer, but it's actually more the adoption on the consumer side, who oftentimes don't have the knowledge or they don't have the infrastructure like the broadband or the payment systems to actually make this happen, right? And so he's asking how to solve that, right? How can Agritech solve or educate maybe the consumer side of things, right? So that some of these or the market is better facilitated. Is this a role that the government should play, or is this something that the private sector is already addressing, or not enough yet? What's your view on it? Maybe Christine, have you seen any of this happening?
Yeah, sure. And I think like linking it to the previous discussion about, you know, it's really important in agriculture to have right-sized technologies, you know, to make agriculture something that is moving past the 3Ds to the 3As. I love that, by the way. And, you know, one of the things, again, is to think about innovation more broadly. And an important point that I didn't make earlier when I was introducing myself is that the Thought for Food organization is actually a nonprofit organization. And because of that, you know, we're able to also look at, explore, and get involved in different types of, you know, longer term types of strategies and funding models besides, you know, VC, and look towards how to create systemic impact across the supply chain so that indeed consumers are empowered too. And I guess the point I just wanted to make is that when we are working with impact-focused, purpose-driven entrepreneurs who want to solve the prevailing challenges facing our food system and make, you know, nutritious food affordable to, for example, the urban poor that's mentioned in a question, we're seeing again that people are jumping in with simple solutions and often tech-based. When you're working with the next generation who tend to be digitally savvy and connected, they're able to find really exciting solutions, you know, that have yeah, really like are helping to do this. And it's not exactly in the area of like fintech, but I wanted to mention, you know, one of the entrepreneurs we worked with in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, Aglonera, was taking the concept of, you know, providing a marketplace solution to street food vendors. His mother was a street food vendor who was waking up very early in the morning, you know, actually at this time around 3 a.m. to be able to go to farmers markets to secure the produce that she needed for her labor in the informal street food sector. And he built a digital marketplace where his mother and other street food vendors could source in a efficient way the produce that they needed, and also in a cost-effective way, without, you know, having to wake up so early. And, you know, of course, the job required late nights, and also the platform improved the profitability. And this is something that, you know, a VC might look at and say, that's not investable. You know, this is like too informal of a sector, and where's my profit margins? But this is where we step in and say, this is solving a real problem. And, you know, this actually, now we're seeing that there are huge investments, you know, going in Indonesia and other parts of the world towards smallholders, towards, you know, kind of that informal sector of the food chain. And I think that's really exciting, because that's going to open up these more inclusive solutions, these more affordable solutions, and bring solutions to the people actually who frankly need it most. I hope that makes sense, but I wanted to give that example of something. And also on the drone point, we actually funded a company in Malawi that called Flying Things, and they actually do 3D printed drones. And so they work on open sourcing their drone hardware blueprints. And, you know, then of course, where there are maker spaces and 3D printing technologies, which are becoming more affordable and accessible in many parts of the world, they're able to, you know, allow farmers to 3D print them. And then they provide some digital training, often which goes through the kids of the farmers, you know, in many countries, because again, the kids are connected. And somebody asked about the power of online communities. This is where the power comes in. People are jumping in, teaching themselves how to use powerful technologies, be that digital tech, be that, you know, like I mentioned, open source hardware, software, and they're building solutions, and they're sharing that with each other, and they're bringing those to farmers, to their parents who are working in, you know, the restaurant industry or the street food sector, or even kids today are educating their parents about nutrition because they're, you know, connecting with information online. So yeah, that's kind of like a quick reaction to the question about how we can do this in today's world.
And maybe as a follow-up on that, Christine, I mean, because you talked a lot, I mean, you do a lot of teaching to startups, right? Or you mentor them, right? And sometimes it's not really the solution that's a problem. They have a very innovative solution that may address a problem, but they're lacking the product market fit, right? Or they may not have the right business model in place, right, that address that particular local problem. How do you, I mean, for maybe the startup entrepreneurs in the audience today, right? Like, what advice would you give to go through that validation and to ensure that they do get that product market fit right? Or maybe pivot at some time, right? If it's not there.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely the name of the game. But I think like another just important point is, you know, we need to start building the right types of investment approaches for the food and agricultural sector, because product market fit is extremely important. But you also, if you want to create change and transformation, for example, for farmers or for food systems that have a lot of like inertia baked in and legacy system baked in, you need to have time, right, to also do kind of that customer validation. Let's just, again, you know, talk about, I'm moving a little bit away from the digital tech or, you know, some of the hardware tech, but let's talk about if you want to introduce, you know, a new plant breeding approach, a new seed or a new irrigation system. They, you know, farmers need some time to test this on their farm. That might be multiple growing seasons. And that, you know, can take years actually. And when you have an expectation in the investment world that there's going to be a 5-year exit, that's not realistic for transformational technologies in this space. And so I think like it's a matter of both getting product market fit right and doing that customer validation and pivoting where necessary. But it's also about making sure the investment community understands that if we want to do this well and right, we need to give these companies the time that they need to, introduce their technologies into the market. And I actually would love to hear from Raswan about, drone technologies. I know Malaysia is a leader in the world in this space, but there's still I've come from big agribusiness, and I've seen the power of drones, on big land units in the Americas and in Eastern Europe and things like this. But there's still, as you said, an expense that farmers aren't willing to take on, and there's technology that sometimes doesn't work. And so just wondering how you found like the investment space and how you've been able to like get through that, and has that been supported by VC or some government funding to allow you to get that time that you needed for product market fit? If you don't mind me asking that question.
Sure. No problem at all. I'm happy to take that question, Christine. So you put it rightly. So there's a lot of process for us even to get it out there, right? So when you talk about precision farming as a service, so basically farming will require, there are two things, right? First is the crop protection, and the second one is the fertilizer application. As a minimal, these are the two sets of activities that you must do as if you're offering your services, right? So of course we've done our rounds in terms of validating our technology, do a bit of ground truthing here and there. And this, of course, require a lot of resources, both in terms of capital and also the know-how, right? So well, first, let's tick the box of capital first. So Aerodyne, I think we are quite well funded. So we are at Series B. We just completed Series B at the moment, and for specific agriculture, we've raised a B+ round. So we've got like investment from Japan that enable us to sort of like kickstart our journey to develop the solutions and roll it out to the market. So we've completed those exercises. So that gives us the ability to go back home and put it on the drawing board, and really develop solutions for the Agritech space, right? So we've done that. So there are like a few crops that we are currently very comfortable with in terms of doing precision farming as a service. Number one being paddy, and number two being durian. And of course, right now, we are also in the commodity market, which is the oil palm sector. So as you know, oil palm is, one of the biggest producing sector, engine of growth here in Malaysia. We have about 5.8 million hectares over here. So there's a lot of opportunities. There's a big space. The cake is enormous for oil palm services. So that is what we have been doing so far, right? So so we are currently also looking at developing other solutions as well. Food system is one of them, so we're looking at a few models that we are currently developing, hoping to get it to the market soon. But again, we're talking about, cost of technology versus the ability of farmers to buy that technology, right? So this is, I guess, a play that Aerodyne comfortably sits in, bridging the gap between the two and offering this as a low capex model, so then they can straight away enjoy the benefits of precision agriculture without having to invest heavily on the capex, right? So this is basically how we do it in the market space at the moment.
Okay, so maybe this is a good segue to talk a little bit more about the funding climate, right? Since Christine already alluded to that particular part. I mean, we've definitely seen that globally there's more investment going into the agri and food tech space. In countries, of course, mature economies like the US, we've seen companies grow. They are now ready to IPO, right? I think last year we saw a lot of specs happening in the market. Whether they're going to turn out to be good or bad, we don't know yet. But I think in Malaysia, in Southeast Asia, maybe regionally, it's still very nascent, right? The investments. It's good to see, again, encouraging the Hive Southeast Asia is investing in the space. I mean, from our perspective, our accelerator, we are investing in that space as well. But maybe talk about the very early stages. Prof, coming back to you. You know, when we talk about ideation, right, maybe within a university environment or research outputs that are coming out of the labs, what is your view in Malaysia, whether is there sufficient funding to get IP in the market, yes or no, and maybe what can be done about it?
Okay, thank you, Matt. I'll be probably getting in trouble after this. Well, to be honest, you know, at the university level, we have quite an ecosystem whereby we know what to do, and then we have experience number of years now on how we can develop an idea into a product. But that's our role stopped there because of the funding mechanism are only for us to discover new ideas, new technologies, and then later on, you know, relying on another party to take it up to the market. So, but more and more now, the government is looking for us to do the market validation ourselves. Again, we, as a scientist, most of us are not an expert in product development into a market-ready product. Okay, that's a challenge that we are facing. The other thing that I've noticed is that in order for us to move beyond university, majority of these ideas are then transferred to a different ministry for it to be further developed into a product. So funding for universities has its limits in terms of you know, fundamental research, but for more on the commercialization or more the industrial-based research, then we have to shift all the ideas, all the IPs that we have into another ministry, which is who have a bigger funding in terms of commercialization with the industry. So this is a challenge that we are facing as well, because a different set of people with a different target and different stakeholders. We believe this is, you know, when this changes, then we really, majority of us go into this valley of death, so-called. What we have suggested in the past is that we should be able to rely on certain universities, especially the 5 research universities who have quite a number of good ideas, specific funding so that they can you know, market or bring these ideas into a real product in the future. I'm just sharing with you that we have a few products, you know, food-based products that I know that one of it is we have developed, and then it's from natural fermentation and so on of this food-based product. And then the analysis that we did, and then we know that it is good for those with hypertension. It really reduced, you know, cases of hypertension in patients. But it is actually taken as a daily food. In fact, it is part of a yogurt actually. So there are certain things that we do with it, and then we develop the process, and we know that certain ingredients within that process, fermentation process, that can actually reduce hypertension. So these are readily available, and yet it stuck in the shelf because of funding issues. That's number one. Number two, I think because of in Malaysia, the market is a bit small. It's only about 30 million population. So probably the what I call it, economy of scale is not there for it to be developed further, right? So one of the things I noticed as well, you know, my office, for example, has been approached by one giant European company and then also recently, while I'm in Turkey, there's another quite a large company in defense looking into not the agri-tech sector, but on other IPs that we have, looking into whether they can co-create and develop these ideas into a product. So we can see that some of these ideas may not be able to have its niche market in Malaysia, but it's actually being sourced after around the world. So we have some of the unique ideas, and I know that my colleagues from other research universities have all these different ideas. As I said, we have funding up to the university level, but when we want to extend it to commercialization, so we have to shift it to another ministry. And then oftentimes the funding is not sufficient to make it really viable in the market. So this is where I think venture capitals like Hive and others like Christine's team can really be part of the ecosystem and assisting all the ideas that we have within the universities to be introduced to the market.
Well, I don't think you got into trouble for that answer, Prof. I think that was a very valid answer that you gave there. I see we're always coming to the end, and I've still a lot of questions here. Can I just ask like one last question? I mean, I just try to wrap it up a little bit. So I see Dr. James, he actually asked 2 questions before, and you know, we haven't talked about the pandemic, right? And so maybe to finish there, maybe to turn a negative sort of environment, atmosphere, and economy into something positive, right? Because there may be opportunities now on the horizon with the pandemic ending. And so Dr. James is asking what we can learn, and particularly in Malaysia, from what's been playing around the world in the pandemic, and how the private sector, be it companies or be it like investors, VCs, or maybe even a government, can actually play a role to find these best opportunities and localize them in a Malaysian context and then scale them up. Any of the panelists have seen anything like where you see like, hey, this is a really good opportunity for Malaysia to address and really in the context of food security and safety? Anything that you guys have seen around the world from this pandemic, from what we can learn from?
Yeah, can I start it?
Very quick one, because we are actually ending the session.
Yeah, I mean, we have an experience where we have one partner which is utilizing hydroponic system in a lowland to produce vegetables, and in a 3-acre of land. And he was actually a former managing director of a MNC company. So he's an engineer. He has no background in agriculture, but when he retired, he ventured into this, and then he's now making a living doing hydroponic system for agriculture, and then with pesticide-free, and then very focused in terms of his productions and usage of fertilizers and all this. So if this can be replicated, and I think it will be a sexy way for younger graduates who graduated in whatever field venture into agriculture, because we can see that the whole system is clean, the whole system is not as high-tech as a cost, and then it's utilizing every inch of the space, and the yield in terms of production is very high. And then even that, I think his farm in Mantin is actually cater for market in Seremban, and he hasn't had enough, and then he wished that more people are replicating what he does, and it's free for people to replicate what he does. So these are the kind of from farm to table, a kind of farm to fork kind of concept, whereby each area will have its own farm close by, and then to support to the market.
Yeah, well, Prof, this is music to my ears. Really, I mean, we are seeing a lot more urban farmers as well using hydroponics or aquaponics or other technologies, bringing food production to the communities. In Sunway, we have our Sunway X farms that we set up 2 years ago, and we are setting up farms indoor, in greenhouses, on rooftops, in car parks, and really try to bring that food closer to the communities. There's a lot of challenges in terms of cost still, but I think something is the cost is going down with technology getting more advanced as well. So definitely a very promising trend. We are seeing that as well. And we are also looking to build that ecosystem around those urban farmers. So maybe for the other two panelists, Raswan and Christine, any final thoughts from your side?
Right. So probably I can chime in a little bit on the post-COVID. So post-COVID, you can see some of the trends in the capital market as well, to look at like really into big funding into food production system of food systems, right? So you can see like company in Netherlands recently, get a 1 billion funding from capital market for vertical farming, and then we are closer to home. You can see from Indonesia, fisheries recently raised about $95 million US dollars. Aruna raised USD about 60 million, I think. So there's a big trend. There's a huge push now for food system. How do we, increase food security? So I think we are in the right space of the capital market right now. There's more and more money being poured into, food security. So I think this is also something that we must take advantage on, capitalize the market as well. So, so what you need is basically a good technology, a good footprint in terms of what you do in the agri space. Make sure that the technology tested out, and develop trials, prove your technology, get to the market, and then the capital market will just respond to you, right? So I think that's also what we are doing at the moment. So we are creating a few niche areas. Be happy to work with collaborators and all that, So yeah, so basically that's it. I mean, to conclude, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Raswan. Christine, last word to you. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that, there's nothing more energizing than waking up at 2:30 in the morning to talk about all of the exciting possibilities, in this space. I saw incredible conversations questions coming through the chat. And I just wanted to say to everyone watching, like, I would love to connect with you to talk about investment and trends. So please do reach out on LinkedIn, or I'll pop my email in the chat. But indeed, like this could go on for, half a day or more. But it's really great to hear about these initiatives from, UPM and Sunway, and of course, like with all of this stuff happening with bringing the power of precision ag to all kinds of farmers, from palm, through to smallholders. So like, let's definitely stay in touch and, shake things up. We're dedicated to bringing that next generation of innovators into the space, which I think the speakers highlighted around the need to bring young people in, creating that, exciting world of opportunity that's ahead, that can actually also really make a tangible impact on the world's most important issues. So thanks for the chance. And I look forward to answering those questions that came through that we didn't get to today bilaterally. So do reach out, everyone. Thank you. And I can't wait to come to Malaysia again soon.
Yeah, I look forward to see you again. Yeah.
Come by Aerodyne, Christine, next time you're around.
Oh, I definitely will. That is for sure happening. I can't wait.
And UPM as well, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
We've worked with UPM before, but yes.
Oh, you did. I'm sure you did. Yeah. So I think we come to the end of the panel, and again, my apologies to the people who did ask questions in the Q&A, and we just didn't get to answer them. So that's on me. Very sorry for that. So yeah, rest me to thank the Hive Southeast Asia for organizing this panel. Maybe to Christine's point, let's do a symposium next time, or a conference, so we can talk for the whole day. But
now it's too short, actually.
Yeah, ours is too short for sure. I think we all agree on that. So Christine, thanks, Prof, especially for this hour of the day. I don't know how you guys can look so good in the middle of the night. I wouldn't be able to pull that up. And then, of course, Raswan, thanks for joining as well from Cyberjaya from Aerodyne. So yeah, thank you, audience, for tuning in. And over to you, Matty.
Thank you guys so much. I learned so much today. I hope all of you attendees learned so much as well. Our panelists were incredible, and we had people foregoing sleep and other things that are super necessary just to be here today. So thank you guys, especially Hung and Christine for staying up so late. Thank you all for hanging in there. I know we went over time. This was obviously a session where we could have just kept going. So I dropped my email in the chat. If you guys want to do another session like this, please email me. We'd love to hear your feedback. And we really hope you can go to our future events. So I dropped all that info in the chat. Thank you all for being here. This session has been recorded and will be emailed out to everyone. Thank you guys. Take care. Have a great day, evening, sweet dreams. Good morning. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Take care.